Well. It appears it's official. Sadly, Daniel Ricciardo officially gone from VCarb. We saw the issues at the Singapore Grand Prix, where Daniel Ricciardo was treated by absolute dirt. We've done at least a couple of videos on the way he was treated. Yes, he got his fastest lap in, but as much as that was for Daniel Ricciardo to maybe go out in a blaze of glory, it was also to help Max Verstappen's World Championship, wasn't it? Let's be honest. Christian Horner, you got to look in the mirror and at least admit that. So we'll be looking at all the news. We'll be looking at a few of the sites and what they're saying. We'll be popping on Twitter to see what the general consensus is. It looks like Daniel Ricciardo has been, quite sadly, replaced by Liam of the Lawson. Yeah. Poor Daniel. Speak to you after this. So Daniel Ricciardo gone. As you can see here on Twitter, official F1 announces that Daniel Ricciardo is going to leave, and then, breaking Liam Lawson to replace RB for the remainder of the season. Lawson will race from the US onwards, a place where the United States, a place where Daniel Ricciardo is absolutely loved, a place where he and the fans love him. He loves the fans. He's got an okay-ish there. But then the issue being, why have that as his last race? He wasn't allowed to go out on his terms. He wasn't allowed, and that's, let me just get the line. And that just makes it really, really sad. I mean, I was coming home from work today, and I was talking with my colleague, beginning with an S, ending in a Y, and I got a WhatsApp, and I was like, oh my gosh, they finally announced it. The rumor was they were maybe going to announce it on Tuesday, but I got the text from my buddy, and was I surprised? No, I'm just surprised about the absolute lack of hoo-ha. Part of me thought maybe they'll let Daniel Ricciardo, fingers crossed, possibly, maybe allow him to race in the US and have the exit he deserves. No dislike on Liam Lawson. And there's a lot of reasons, and I'm sure we'll get into them, why we think that Liam Lawson has replaced Daniel Ricciardo. And it begins with an S, and it's Sergio Perez. Yeah, it begins with an S, ends in a Z. But we'll get into that. So let's have a look at what Planet F1 are saying. They got Daniel Ricciardo's first words after the VCarb exit confirmed as Liam Lawson takes over. This is by Jamie Woodhouse. And he said Ricciardo took to social media after the rumours of his immediate exit were made. He returned to the F1 grid partway through, as we know all that. And on Thursday, following the Singapore Grand Prix, confirmation emerged that Ricciardo had indeed been dropped from the VCarb lineup with immediate effect as Lawson comes in to complete the F1 2024 campaign alongside Yuki Tsunoda. Now, taking to social media to address the situation, Ricciardo wrote, "I've loved this sport my whole life. It's wild and wonderful and been a journey. To the teams and individuals that have played their part, thank you. To the fans who love the sport sometimes more than me, haha, thank you. It'll always have its highs and lows, but it's been fun, and truth be told, I wouldn't change it until the next adventure." Kind of like really sad. And Red Bull, I mean, an absolute... Obviously, I don't swear. I don't really want to. I don't really want to swear on live on air, and I'm not going to. But the big issue I have with this is that Red Bull have absolutely, legitimately, treated Daniel Ricciardo dirty. They've done him. They've absolutely done him dirty, as we've mentioned. And what about, for let's be honest, arguably Daniel Ricciardo, the third best Red Bull driver, and I do add Sergio Perez in there and all the others, and Mark Webber. I generally think he's the third best Red Bull driver after Max and Sebastian. And hey, he even beat Sebastian in 2014. So that's not particularly great, is it? Yeah. So what is motorsport? I mean, what else has Planet F1 got for us, shall we? So Daniel Ricciardo dropped by VCARB with the Liam Lawson replacement confirmed. This was about 48 minutes ago. The Australian's future had been uncertain following strong reports that Singapore was his last race, and Red Bull have now confirmed this, stating Lawson will be in the car onwards. Ricciardo's future was thought to be hanging by a thread, as we know, after he failed to get going. Well, they say hanging by a thread, but you got Sergio Perez performing way worse than Daniel Ricciardo, but somehow you kept him and you get rid of the better at the two drivers, which is something I don't understand that at all. It's just plain weird. It's not good. Oh, it's not particularly great, is it? So they've opted to remove the 34-5-year-old, put in his place Lawson, the 22-year-old academy product, who did, let's be fair, very well when he stepped into Daniel Ricciardo's shoes. A massive thumbs up from us there, Liam Lawson, and we'll get into Liam Lawson in a bit. I think, yeah, fair play. So motorsport.com, once again, RB replaces Ricciardo with Lawson for the remainder of the season. Ricciardo's exit confirmed. Marco Ricciardo lost killer in... Helmut Marco, absolutely. I mean, he's a font of knowledge, isn't he? So Helmut Marco, Ricciardo lost killer instinct after leaving Red Bull. Helmut Marco believes that Daniel Ricciardo lost his killer instinct in the years away from Red Bull. Yeah, maybe. He said it was confirmed officially. The news all but marked the end of his 14-year stint in Formula One. As a Red Bull junior, Ricciardo rose through the ranks and he competed for the main team, as we know, in 2014-2018. He was persuaded by the boss of Renault and probably Max Verstappen in the way Ricciardo... I mean, bear no beef. Everyone has turned around and said Daniel Ricciardo should not have left. Daniel Ricciardo should not have left Formula One. The Red Bull team in F1. But he did. The reason why? He could almost sense what happened with Mark Webber in relation to Sebastian Vettel was starting to happen with him. So, yes, he put in hindsight, and hindsight is 2020. It's wonderful, isn't it? But he shouldn't have gone. I genuinely don't think Daniel Ricciardo should have got left Red Bull. But given the information, I generally think you cannot blame Daniel Ricciardo for that either. And he had it says here, there are 2 fruitless seasons with McLaren, despite taking an 8th one. He did win, and he won in a McLaren before Lando Norris. Just saying. He endured 2 frustrating seasons trying to adapt to the team's machinery. Yes, it was frustrating. And Marco said, I think the decision to leave Red Bull Racing was the turning point in his career. Then he didn't have a winning car either. Well, he did at McLaren. He won, Marco. He did win at Monza, but those were special circumstances. No, they weren't. Now, this is the thing about Daniel Ricciardo's victory in Monza. A lot of people think that Daniel Ricciardo at Monza, he won. He was lucky. He was lucky, like Helmut Marco thinks. Well, Helmut Marco, it wasn't really the case. If you remember, he got up there, he was on the front row, he took the lead, he managed the lead, and at no point during the race did it really look like Max Verstappen and or Lewis Hamilton, before they whoopsie-daisy together with Hamilton came out the pits, at no point did it look like either of them were going to win. It was Daniel Ricciardo's all the way, and it was only towards the end when Lando Norris was there or thereabouts that McLaren, quite rightly as well, because they had a 1-2 at Monza, cut it off. So Helmut Marko, once again, I like you. You're great for the headlines, but you don't know what you're talking about. He goes on to say, Helmut does, I don't know what exactly happened, because if we knew, we would have helped him. But the speed and above all, this late braking and then goes left to right. In the last few years, he tried, but it was no longer there. The killer instinct was gone. Maybe. Marco believes question marks over his status alongside Verstappen and the strength of Red Bull's Honda power units played a part in Ricciardo leaving for Red Bull for Renault. He had certain reservations about the Honda engine, and apparently he listened to the sweet talk of Renault and Seoul. Yes, he did. Financially, there wasn't much difference. I told him, sure, it will be hard for you. I don't think we've seen Renault on the podium a lot. I think he got 2 podiums with Renault, didn't he? He came to us, beating Vettel with 3-0 victories in 2014. After that, Danny Kvyat was faster than him at times, but over the season, he had him under control. Then came Max. Came and got stronger and stronger. So that was certainly one of the reasons of his decisions to leave. It may have been, but once again, Max was treated as the wonder child, the Wunderkind, compared to Daniel Ricciardo. Absolutely, I can understand why you would treat Max Verstappen as the Wunderkind compared to Daniel Ricciardo. But here's the issue. And the big B is, Ricciardo was still really good then. Max Verstappen, they'd given Max Verstappen a much bigger contract before Daniel Ricciardo left. He was, I think Max was even on more money from what I remember. I could be wrong. Comment below, let me know at some point, probably after this video goes out, we can check. But then, the incident at Baku in 2018 as well, where it was Max Verstappen's fault. He moved, once again, Max Verstappen in the braking zone. Ricciardo, his car looked like it made love to the other, to Max Verstappen's car, in the rear. And then, in the rear, neither of them had any, and in the rear, no idea. They both went off into the ether that was the runoff for the first corner. And it seemed that it was very similar to the 2010 Mark Webber, Sebastian Vettel down at Turkey. And I can't help but feel that the team sort of sided more maybe with Max, just like they did with Vettel. And that was the turning point, in my opinion, of Daniel Ricciardo's career with Red Bull, and one of the main reasons that he left. Marco carries on by saying the timing was related to a variety of factors. He was informed, and the worthy farewell performance was, I think, the fastest lap. That was, at Singapore. That still showed the potential he has, not continuously and not at the level that would have justified him coming to Red Bull Racing. Sergio Perez. That still show what potential he has, but not continuously and not at the level that would have justified him to come to Red Bull Racing. Let me read that again. And think of Perez as you read these lines. That still show what potential he has. Yeah, fastest lap. But not, here it is, the killer, not continuously and not at the level that would have justified him coming to Red Bull Racing. Huh. Okay, but you've got a very slow Mexican there who has cost you potentially millions of pounds by not winning the Constructors' Championship. He's not doing well at all, is he? I mean, he's out of the top 8 drivers, the top 4 teams. He's 8th in what was, at least for the first half of the season, the car to have, the dominant car to have. And I would bet a fair lick of money that no, Daniel Ricciardo, he may not have had a victory. He may not have got a victory in that Red Bull, but I'm very sure when you look at his performances compared to Tsunoda, particularly towards the summer break when he got a hold of it, he would have scored a lot more points than Sergio Perez. Marco goes on to say, I think it was clearly communicated that he has to be significantly better than Yuki, and he only managed that in a few races. That is true. So it was clear that his story of the prodigal son rejoining Red Bull Racing unfortunately didn't work out. He said very well that he's at peace with himself and he has come to terms with the situation, and we will see what happens for the plans of his future. Very true. Yeah, so that's hard to defend. I love Daniel Ricciardo. That is very hard to defend, though. He did kind of get, not destroyed, but he got profoundly, he's very much in second place a lot of the time compared to Daniel Ricciardo, which is not particularly great. Even the race has got one. Our verdict on the Red Bull ejecting Ricciardo. I love the race, so let's have a look at this article as well. And they're going, what's the bigger picture behind Red Bull ejecting Daniel Ricciardo from RB? Again, so Liam Lawson can return to Formula One. Is Lawson good enough to justify the change? I think he is, but in the middle of the year, I don't know. I mean, not in the middle of the season, but as we even get to the twilight of the season. Is Lawson good enough to justify the change? Did Ricciardo deserve better? Yes. Lawson is good enough, I think, to be an RB, absolutely. Is it more evidence that Red Bull's once enviable driver system is now a mess? Yes, it absolutely is. Red Bull clearly wants Perez out, and that's what Ben Anderson says. This is interesting. He says, to me, it feels like Red Bull is desperate to get rid of Sergio Perez any way it can. Wow, savage. Even though it agreed a contract extension with him earlier this year. Yeah. What was that about? Yuki Tsunoda now appears to be nothing more than the junior team benchmark, sadly, who apparently for reasons of character will never get promoted. Better than Perez, though, I think, but exists instead. This is not a Perez hate thing. Perez was a very good driver, like Daniel Ricciardo. Emphasis on was. There was clearly hope in some quarters that the organisation that Ricciardo would blow Tsunoda away, but he didn't. But Ricciardo, by his own admission, has been underwhelming in the RB, and he said there must be renewed hope within Red Bull that he is the one that can finally blow Tsunoda away, and that's Liam Lawson, and turn the screw again on Perez. So, there's this, and it says here, this is, and I think this is quite significant, and I can't help but agree, this is an audition for Perez's 2025 Red Bull seat. But if Lawson doesn't make the grade against Tsunoda over these final races of 2024, then Red Bull is running out of options. In that scenario, I expect some serious wooing of George Russell. And we know, as some of us might know, Christian Horner was very much wooing of the George Russell. And incidentally, the other rumour about Liam Lawson was very much a helmet Marko person, and Christian Horner was very much a Danny Ricciardo person. The more I've come to the conclusion that this Ricciardo Lawson change is about a 2025 Red Bull audition for Lawson, the more it makes sense. That's the only thing I think that makes sense in what is a ridiculous scenario. There was an argument that if RB would make the change for 2025 anyway, then it might as well crack on. No, I think this is a man that's won you races at Red Bull. I think 7 races at Red Bull. It broke the Mercedes duct in Canada 2014, and again at Spa, I think, and again at Hungary, I think, that same year did Daniel Ricciardo. And if it wasn't, like my buddy beginning with an S and ending in a Y, if it wasn't the fact that they mentioned that we have the Mercedes teams being all dominant, you got to wonder how many championships Daniel Ricciardo would have won in that Red Bull before Max Verstappen came. Would have been at least a couple. So, and in 2014, you can make a very good argument that he was the best driver that year. Mark Hughes says F1 doesn't carry passengers, even lovely ones. Oh, there was the Red Bull test at Silverstone, which went very well. That would have been last year, just before Nick de Vries got canned. That rescued an F1 career, which would otherwise have been dead after 2 years of underperformance at McLaren. Everyone wanted him to succeed. Yes, they did. The good old Daniel. Goodwill got him that far, further than almost anyone else would have got. It was past time actually. F1 doesn't carry passengers, but let's salute the great Daniel, how great Daniel was for 7 straight seasons and the terrific human being he is. Gary Anderson is saying it's make or break for Lawson's career. I think these next few races, now the pressure is, and let's talk about Lawson briefly, the pressure is very much on Daniel Lawson now, simply because he's the man that's now replaced Daniel Ricciardo. The pressure will be on him straight away in the USA, where the USA love Daniel Ricciardo. I hope they love Liam Lawson just as much as I like him as well, because he did really, really well. But there's no denying that the pressure is very much on Liam Lawson as he's going to come to Austin. Yes, he's going to have the simulator, about 3 weeks now in the simulator, around about, before we do indeed get into the United States Grand Prix. And Gary, they say, this is Gary Anderson, he says, we know from the past that Red Bull is fairly brutal with its driver decisions, and the way it's treated Ricciardo, externally at least, shows there is no change in how it goes about its business. And they've said, hopefully, there was more direct communication about this being a possibility, and the team was more honest with him in person over the last few weeks and month. All that said, I completely agree. They should have been. Red Bull, RB, whatever you want to look at it, they weren't honest with Daniel Ricciardo. I keep saying, done him dirty. I doubt that's going to trend, but they absolutely have done Daniel Ricciardo dirty. But all that said, putting Lawson in for those last 6 races is actually the only way for Red Bull to judge his true talent. When and if RB has a trouble-free weekend, he can be directly compared to Tsunoda, who is, as we know, is no slouch. So Lawson doesn't really have anywhere to hide. If he is okay, a seat with RB is on his taken. If he's exceptional, well, I think even okay, equal to Tsunoda would be enough to get Perez. But if he doesn't thrash Tsunoda, then he will have had his chance and blown it. His future is now in his own hands. Ed Strauss, but why is Red Bull scrambling for drivers again? Situation sounds the latest in the long sequence of alarm bells. Yeah, for Red Bull's, let's be fair, interesting season. What it utterly lacks is the strategy when talking about the drivers. He said, yes, Red Bull has God, I'm not very good at big words. Ostensibly ticked the most difficult box by having a top line in one of its cars, Alina Joss, Sebastian Vettel, Ricciardo, then Max Verstappen. Today, it does at least have an obvious next cab off the rank in Lawson. Now, in recent memory, Red Bull has re-signed drivers. It once dropped 3 times. Hartley, Albon and Danny Kvyat. Mid-season changes have been common. Now, the majority of F1 teams now have junior schemes, and the fight to land the next big thing is more intense. Yeah, we all know that. The chickens are coming home to roost. As we look at that wonderful red Fiat 500, the chickens are coming home to roost, given that there's every chance Red Bull will win the Drivers' Championship with Verstappen, but lose the Constructors. Thank you, Sergio Perez. There's nothing wrong with having a number 1 and number 2, but there needs to be far more precise planning. Red Bull has turned what should be a unique strength into a weakness for far too long. Yeah, Ricciardo realised his time was up by Matt Beer. I think he did, but I'm not denying Yeah, I mean, someone's put here. This is where the comments. The F1 fans passionate enough to comment. This guy's put, I really like Daniel Ricciardo, but I don't get the narrative that he deserves better. RBI gave him a chance in 2023, a second chance in 2024. He didn't take it. Time for Lawson. It's harsh, but that's it. Yeah, fair enough. But once again, I keep repeating myself, and I'm sorry, I do sound like a stuck record. The two issues I've got is, one, Singapore, the way Daniel Ricciardo was treated. There was all these questions about, is it your last race, is it not? No one knew. Why couldn't Red Bull, why couldn't RB or VCub come out and go, yes, it's Daniel's last, hurrah, make a massive deal about it? No. They decided to leave him out to dry, out to pasture, as in the queue, just like the cows, before they're shot and taken away. That's basically, they treated Daniel Ricciardo like a dirty piece of meat. And what an absolutely toxic team for doing so. Yeah, maybe he's good. It's just not very nice. Now, I could have egg on my face. They may well announce Ricciardo for Red Bull for the rest of the year in place of Sergio Perez. But I doubt that. Peter Kaufman said, I don't think anyone's arguing that he should have been retained. The deserve better refers to the torturous way his decision was reached and eventually announced. Yes, Peter Kaufman, you get it. What matters is how it was discussed with him. And for all we know, it was decided between DR and RB not to announce it over the weekend for some reason. His friends were there, so I think that he was very aware. Yeah, I mean, they're just talking to each other now. Here we go. There's Liam, there's Danny Ricciardo. Let's see. It's beautiful, isn't he? What a lovely man. Post your reply here. No, I don't think we will. So he's gone. I mean, I'm not in shock. I'm just really sad. I'm just really sad at the way it's happened. If I'm honest, no matter what you think of Daniel Ricciardo, he did not deserve to go out like this as Charlie Louise. He deserves donuts, cheering crowds, helmet swaps, everything he wasn't allowed to have, thanks to the complete mismanagement of the team. Hopefully for DR, heartbroken for DR that it's ended this way. Yes. Absolutely, you said it. Jake Buckley has said Daniel Ricciardo beat Max Verstappen I've read this before, but I want to read it again because it shows how good Daniel Ricciardo is. Daniel Ricciardo beat Max Verstappen in 2 out of 3 seasons at Red Bull and would have won 3 out of 3 if not for mechanical issues. Maybe we'll never know, but fair play. He beat Sebastian Vettel in his first season. Yes, he would have been a 2-time champion. We just said that. If it wasn't for Mercedes' dominance, show him respect. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, Daniel Ricciardo. They don't deserve you with that. Look at that with the hand. It just reminds me of the old Pokemon or the old Nintendo dog games. Only 39 out of 777 Formula One drivers have 8 or more wins. That's amazing. 5% of the total drivers. If that doesn't signify that Daniel Ricciardo deserves a better goodbye, then I don't know what is. Absolutely. If anyone remembers this moment here, that was at the 2022 British Grand Prix. I mean, amazing. I mean, that was brilliant, wasn't it? And this is the emotional Daniel Ricciardo speaking it after the Singapore Grand Prix, which I thought was. I don't think we can play. Yeah.
You don't normally do that, and I mean, ultimately, what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks?
So sad.
Yeah. Well.
You can see in his face he's destroyed.
Yeah, a lot of emotions because, look, I'm aware it could be it, and yeah, I think it's also just exhausted after the race. So there's so much. I mean, I don't know.
Look at him. Look at his eyes.
A flood of many emotions and feelings and exhaustion.
He sat in his car for 1.5, I think 1.5 minutes, didn't he, before he got out?
The cockpit is something that
he knew it was the end. I think.
I got very, very used to for many years.
I mean,
and yeah,
look at
just
it's really sad.
Savor the moment.
All right. Well, I hope you see you at Austin. Daniel.
Thank you.
I mean, look right at the end. You can see the look.
Thank you.
I'm getting so cross at Red Bull. RBI Delhi braking leads VCub with immediate effect. Fastest lap driver of the day. I love the fact that the fans voted him driver of the day, which is kind of like a middle finger to Red Bull and RB the way they treated him. No one will be able to take away your achievements and what you've achieved in this sport. You deserved a proper goodbye, but the impact Daniel Ricciardo has had on the sport will live on forever. Yes. Matt Gallagher not giving Daniel from P1, isn't it? Not giving... Oh, look at that. Daniel Ricciardo proper goodbye. It's utterly mystifying. Are you all up that, Matt Gallagher? And say it's utterly disgusting. I'm going to put that. Yes. I think it is utterly disgusting. With the way they treat him. There we go. Hey! For what that's worth. If I was managing Daniel Ricciardo, he'd be racing.
Right. If I was managing him, he would be racing.
All right, let's.
I mean, see you soon, Daniel Ricciardo. Your smile will always light up the paddock. Now, one thing about Daniel Ricciardo that we need to remember, and I mentioned that in the Daniel Ricciardo video, but I want to mention it now. Drive to Survive. Okay, 2 people made Drive to Survive season 1. Okay, the season where both Ferrari and Mercedes were too chicken or too up their noses to actually compete. No, we're too important to actually repeat, to actually do it. In fair play to Red Bull for that one. And talking about Red Bull, 2 people, Red Bull, and we're going to be talking about Haas. Günther Steiner, yes, was the star, but the lead co-star, let's say, was Daniel Ricciardo. That really helped make Drive to Survive, and did so with his quips, anecdotes, funny sayings, interesting thoughts and interviews and notes. Early on, he really made Drive to Survive along with the Haas boss, Günther Steiner. And there's an argument to be made. If that first season completely failed, there wouldn't have been a Drive to Survive season 2, 3, and it wouldn't have got as big as it was. And that also, especially during the 2020, the year where the F1 season was, let's just say, interrupted, that really, really helped get Formula One mainstream. I mean, Formula One went mainstream, and then we had that lovely 2021 season. And that was on the back of all that was built up from Drive to Survive. And Daniel Ricciardo himself has a lot. There is a lot, of thanks that needs to go in there. No, he's not the one man that made F1 mainstream, but for Drive to Survive, as I said, he was at least the second big co-star for Drive to Survive, was Daniel Ricciardo. There are other drivers. I mean, Lewis Hamilton wasn't there. None of the Ferrari drivers were either when Drive to Survive first came on. So I'm just saying, Günther Steiner and Daniel Ricciardo, F1 owes them a lot. Daniel Ricciardo deserves better. I'm not going to say yes. So there he is. Well, yes, rudeness. McLaren news. We'd like to thank Daniel Ricciardo for his amazing moment as a Formula One driver. Oh yeah, that was good. That's the win there. Oh, look at that. That's the win in Monza. Yep. Daniel Ricciardo winning a race with McLaren before Lando Norris. Enjoy the butterflies. Oh, they just put that an hour ago. That was nice. That is a nice picture of Daniel Ricciardo. And get it, girl. Butterflies, enjoy being naive. Enjoy, lick the stamp. One of my favourite sayings is lick the stamp and send it. And that's one of the best things he did. Tom Bellingham, the decision to drop down Ricciardo can be justified. But what isn't is to let a multiple race winner and legend of the sport leave without a proper goodbye. Makes absolutely no sense to announce this before. Makes absolutely no sense not to announce this before Singapore. Yep, absolutely. The grid won't be the same without you, Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo, we cannot. Just want to congratulate Daniel Ricciardo on an incredible F1 career that no one can take away from him. And he won amazing races, didn't he? Let's be honest. ESPN1, breaking Daniel Ricciardo will leave Red Bull with immediate effect. Daniel Ricciardo moved from F1. He removed the other day, supposedly, the F1 driver from his Instagram account. So, but then some people suggested it was already moved. I adore you so much. You're a talented driver with such good, vibrant personality. You're beautiful. Contagious smile. Brighten my days. Your jokes and personality are admirable. I will be missing you deeply, Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo's official statement, and we've read that, but I'll read it again for those that haven't seen it. I've loved the sport my whole life. It's wild and wonderful and been a journey to the teams and individuals that have played their part. Thank you. To the fans who love the sport, sometimes more than me. Haha, thank you. It'll... ... always have its highs and lows, but it's been fun, and the truth be told, I wouldn't change it until next time. Is it going to be a next time though? I mean, yeah, Sergio Perez having a seat over Daniel Ricciardo. Yes. What's this?
Oh, the game's gone, innit? The game's gone.
The game's gone.
The game's gone.
The game's gone. Game's gone.
Game's gone.
Game's gone.
It was in our hands, but then it disappeared.
That in itself just shows how far gone the game has gone.
The game's gone. So
the game's gone.
The
game's gone.
Well done. Well done. Your mark on F1 will never disappear. I mean, yeah. Liam Lawson to replace Dan Ricciardo for the rest of the season. Ricciardo saying his final lap after seeing Anders last lap. Everyone, oh my God. Marco said Lawson will be driving for VCAR. That means Daniel's career is over. That was on the 16th of September. Okay, I mean, I think we've pretty much almost exhausted most of that. But I just want to say, Daniel Ricciardo, well done. You deserved so much better. May the senior managers at RB and Red Bull that made this decision, absolutely, assuming this is the absolute goodbye and this is the last, and Singapore was indeed your last F1 race in anger, may they hang their head in shame. They are an absolute embarrassment the way they treated you. It's almost, almost criminal in the terms of F1 to treat a driver like that. Absolutely, it is. Even though if you think he's not got it anymore. And then the absolute hypocrisy over the summer break of keeping Sergio Perez at the team. When you look at the fact that for many races, Daniel Ricciardo outqualified Sergio Perez in, let's be honest, a much worse car. And we've done videos about that as well in our Daniel Ricciardo ones. But I don't want to slag Sergio Perez too much off because it's the stock record now. So I want to end on a positive note. Daniel Ricciardo, 2014's best ever Formula One driver in 2014. He was the MVP. I think even Autosport ranked him number one that year. A man that would have won many more races and multiple world champions had it not been for a certain Mercedes engine. A man who beat Sebastian Vettel. A man who at times, the only teammate that Max Verstappen has had, who has beaten him many times as well. Daniel Ricciardo, you are a legend of the sport. And when we do a top 5, probably, drivers who haven't won a world championship, I'm pretty sure you will most probably be featuring in that list. Daniel Ricciardo, we salute you. I'm not a military man, obviously. It's probably a really bad salute, but still. You have been one of my favourite drivers. I was so happy when you joined McLaren. It was absolutely great. I know it didn't amass too much, but you won Monza. And that's one of my most watched races, I think, this side of the 2020 at least. Since the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix, let's say, because that was an amazing race as well. And the 2014 Hungarian Grand Prix that you won. You deserve a lot better, Daniel Ricciardo. Thank you I just want to say thanks for watching, guys. I really, really appreciate that. If you liked what you see, please give us a subscribe. Hit that notification button if you would like to see more F1 news. But Daniel Ricciardo, thank you.